Hey everybody, just want to give you a heads up. I am in the process right now of building a Alchemist STS 105 course, and I thought I'd give you just a quick review on Alchemist overall. When I first started hearing about this program and seeing some of the demos, I thought it was really cool, but it felt like they were trying to make a dumb version of Substance Designer. And to a certain degree, some people are very overwhelmed with Substance Designer. There's a lot of just node-based connectivity. It's a very heavy or just steep learning curve when you get into it. Whereas Alchemist is sort of like throw things together really quick. The beauty is Alchemist mixed with Substance Source, and with their new Substance algorithmic launcher, you can pretty much pull from Substance Source, which you need a subscription. I think it's like, I don't know what it was now. I think it's like $10 a month, where you can pull from the source materials and start to mix and match those with all types of filters. It's sort of like if you were using Nuke, but you were like kind of throwing things together in After Effects, okay? There are some good things and there are some bad things, but the great thing is just how quickly you can really start to mix up and make materials on the fly really quickly. They did claim that there was some AI system in this, and I wouldn't call it AI in the sense that it's like self-aware or something, but really all it does is that the AI portion of this, as far as mixing up variety, is it samples the majority color in images that you can drop in. So you can drop in a picture of Ben Affleck or something, and it'll have like, he might have a suit and tie on, which it'll sample the black of his suit, the gray of his tie, the skin color that he has, and then it's going to take those basic color palettes and kind of apply it to different variations within what you currently have. And you can kind of mix and match and try things out pretty crazy. And again, that's really cool because it's really giving you a quick variety. And when you work in a game studio like I have, getting a variety of things kind of thrown out there. The only cons that I see to this, there's a couple cons just getting into it. And now we're talking about the beta here. We haven't gotten the full version yet. One is you cannot bring in, at least I can't see it, where you can bring in actual geometry to test this stuff out. So if you have a specific, material or cloth or something, or some geometry that you want to test this on, you really can't do that. And again, you're just creating the, square patterns that you obviously are going to export and apply in a obviously, tiled version. So you don't really necessarily need to always have that, but it'd be kind of nice. The other thing is really the idea, I'm thinking about it in form of production. It would be nice if this is a kind of a dumbed down version of Substance Designer to export out the SBS files and actually open them up as SBS files in their native network form. There is an option to export out SBS ARs, which are just materials, obviously, and then you can export out the SBS STS files, which is the Substance Designer file. So I thought, oh, that's cool. I can export this to Substance Designer and open it up, and then if I need to make tweaks to any of the wiring, I could do so and make varieties within Substance Designer. I thought that was the part I was excited about. I'm like, okay, I can kind of play Mr. Dummy in Substance Alchemist, right? And just throw materials together, and then whatever I get, I'll bring it into a network, and then I can make tweaks in that network if I need to. And that's what I love about Substance Designer is within a Substance Designer file, you can have multiple Substance Designer files and multiple materials at the same time, mix and match, copy and paste. Whereas with Alchemist, you really only have one specific material in sort of a Photoshop or, After Effects stacked way of filters and so forth. And you're just going to have to basically turn off a crap load of files and so forth if you want to put multiple materials or varieties of materials within that. So from sort of an archiving, going back in and making varieties, it's going to be, organization-wise, it's going to be a bit of a mess if it were to be applied into production. Now, I'm assuming they might fix this, but the beauty, again, I believe it's really this is such its infancy. It's going to be like Substance Painter. in Substance Designer where they were changing up the interface every 5 seconds, and they got Adobe backing them with the bucks. So I think they're definitely going to be able to pull off some amazing stuff. But we are so early in the game. I really think a lot of the stuff that we'll be barking at will be obviously fixed, but it's going to take some super time. I was so pleased and awesome, just super excited that we're going to be able to paint across UV shells inside of the new versions coming up for Substance Painter. That's exciting. That tells me, as I predicted, that Adobe is injecting money, and obviously, better programmers and so forth that are getting in there and solving so many of these sort of problems that Substance, the algorithmic team, kind of painted themselves into a corner programming-wise, and they're trying to paint themselves out right now. And I think they just needed the help of Adobe to do it. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of Adobe, but I honestly think they're going to be doing a great job. And just by getting into Project Alchemist, I can tell you it's so much fun. It is absolutely so much fun getting into it. Just starting to throw together materials and so forth. Again, the only beef I have is when you do export out a Substance Designer file, which you can do, where you're like, oh, cool, I can network, I can kind of, play with the wiring, is what you only get is just a printout of whatever resolution you did. So if you did like a 1024 by 1024, you're just going to get a physical export of the image. I think it's like PNG or something. And then it's going to be plugged into the, base color, roughness, all those different nodes. So you're kind of robbed at that point. You're kind of like, oh, cool, I can go in and rewire things. You can't. It basically just prints out still images and plugs them into the base color. And you're just like, okay, what's really the point of that, as opposed to just bringing in an SBSAR file physically into Substance Designer. So again, I think that's something that obviously is going to require a lot of work, because I'm very convinced, and you'll never hear this from the Substance folks, is that Alchemist is really just the beginnings of simplistic material design, which is great. And that's what you want. You want to literally grab from a huge library, in the same way we have like Quixel and all these, photogrammetry, different libraries to pull from. We're getting to the point where it's like the idea, and again, I've worked in production and worked on, at a AAA studio. I know what it's like when you're like, I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every video game. I just want to reuse some assets that are the same. So if I have dirt ground, if I have, if I want to create a little variety in that, that's the important part. That's the problem that we had in production when I was at NetherRealm, was that we would start to see our video games start to look alike, because we were using assets that weren't being pressed with the ability to put variety. And back then, we didn't have these resources of these nonlinear systems to get in there and just tweak out and create little variations of things. When we were reusing assets for one game after another. But Alchemist seems to be the solution to that. The only thing that I think they really got to solve is the sort of ability to have multiple Alchemist files opened up at the same time in something like a subfolder system in the top left, very much like Substance Designer has. And the other thing is the ability to export out STS files, I forget whatever acronym it is, to go to Substance Designer and go in there and tweak it out to make changes. Because I really do believe what you can create in Project Alchemist, all of the nodes are pretty much there in Substance Designer, but it takes so much more work, because you're plugging in, the base color, the roughness, the metallic, and you're putting all these nodes in there. It's becoming a nightmare. Why not make it easy? And that's what they're doing. They're trying to make it easy. I'm not bashing the folks at Algorithmic. I think they're doing a great job. It's just a matter of the fact that it just seems like there's going to be a lot of stuff ahead. But getting into this now is important, I think. I think it's super exciting. And if you're just, even if you're like an indie developer of games, I think this is more suited at this point in this early stage for you guys, because this stuff, you can just pump out materials like crazy and start to populate your scenes inside of your game engine. So again, I'm really looking forward to showing you guys definitely the algorithmic launcher, as well as Project Alchemist in the new STS 105 tutorial. And I'm also going to be eventually updating my STS 102 and 101 courses, because there's obviously new stuff inside of Substance. I believe it's going to be a very bright future with Adobe in charge. So I'm going to go back to optimism here. So I'll see you guys later, and then keep an eye out for updates.